Do Kwon's Terraform sent $7 million to law firm before collapse, report unveils. Prosecutors investigating failed blockchain firm Terraform Labs have found out that its Singapore office sent millions of US dollars to lawyers just before the crash of its cryptocurrencies. According to Korean media, the transfer suggests that co-founder Do Kwon was aware of the imminent collapse. South Korean prosecutors working on the fraud case against Terraform Labs co-founder and CEO Do Kwon have revealed that the company has paid a total of 9 billion won, nearly $7 million.
And subsequently led to a ton of carnage in the crypto markets. Do Kwon, founder of Terraform Labs, is sort of in the crosshairs of a number of law enforcement agencies and investigators. We saw the SEC take action not long ago. South Korea has taken action, and now Singapore, according to Bloomberg, is also homing in on Do Kwon and the Terra collapse. David, I think, has been following this one most doggedly, so I'm going to toss it to him for his initial thoughts. What do you got?
Yeah, so just to sort of bring people up to speed on the context here, you mentioned recent new SEC charges. And, I think that they flew a little tiny bit under the radar, but those new SEC charges drastically changed the narrative about what was going on with Do Kwon and Terraform Labs. I mean, we have our podcast series, Crypto Crooks, this season that's currently coming out now. I believe we have a new episode tomorrow on Do Kwon and Luna and Terraform. And our focus going in was really like, this was such a bad idea. Why did people fall for it? And then we had the new charges come out with the SEC a couple of weeks ago that make it very clear that it wasn't just a bad idea. It was a very proactive fraud that involved a lot of fake documentation. And we also now know, thanks to the SEC, that Do Kwon and or his allies has cashed out about $100 million worth of the Bitcoin gathered supposedly for the Luna Foundation Guard. And so you will see, I think we have Singapore coming on side now. You will see other collaboration from investigators and governments and agencies now that there's this much clearer sense that Do Kwon is a criminal and a fraud, and it's really right out there on the table. So we've seen a shift in something that happened a year ago, which I think is important to keep in mind. The story is always changing.
I kind of want to chime in a little bit and talk about some of the actions that the SEC has done. Gary Gensler basically came out and says everything but Bitcoin could be a security. And I feel like that's very lazy on his part, but this directly relates to bad actors in the space. If you come out and you don't do your job in the proper manner, but then want to go ahead and call bad people out later on, I feel like it kind of discredits the SEC in a sense, because they're basically putting every other crypto project or every other crypto service, product, whatever, into this basket, indicating that is bad, when in fact Do Kwon is actually a bad actor, but they're also putting in other people that are good actors into this basket. So my only concern about this is that later on, once Gary Gensler does get replaced, because I have a feeling he's going to, because he's not doing his job clearly. He's taking the easy way out. I feel like that could lead to any type of discrediting the actual bad actors, people like Do Kwon. Jen, is that something that could happen in the future if Gary Gensler is not doing his job properly and then he is replaced and then somebody new steps in and says, well, X, Y, and Z was said, but that's not really the way it is. So would that maybe not get Do Kwon in as much trouble or kind of discredit the United States SEC, make it harder for other countries to kind of follow suit and do use the information that we have to kind of put against these bad actors?
I think David is going to have a better answer to that question. So I'm going to pause on that. David, we're going to throw it to you after my take on this. I think, just especially since we are doing the story after Sam Bankman-Fried, I see so many parallels between Do Kwon and Sam Bankman-Fried. When this whole thing blew up, Do Kwon was on social media saying, I didn't know I did anything wrong. I'm a good guy. How could I have known that this would have collapsed like this? I really care about the retail investors at the end of the day. And then all of this information comes out against that. Let's not forget that there is an Interpol red notice against this man. And up until I think it was February 1st, he was out here on Twitter essentially trolling regulators. And so I really hope that with all of these actions and all of these different jurisdictions, we're able to find Do Kwon and get some answers and get some justice for the people who have lost a ton of money in what's happened. David?
First of all, Wendy, I think we're going to discuss your point in much more depth when we move on to Voyager in a second. I think it's very relevant to that story. But also, just to throw out one wild final comment here about Do Kwon. Not only is there a red notice, but he fled, according to South Korean sources, he has fled to Serbia. Now, Serbia is interesting as a destination for him because he's from South Korea, no obvious geographical or cultural connection, but Serbia is near a hotbed of organized crime that we now know much more clearly has been entangled with past crypto frauds, particularly OneCoin, which is based in Bulgaria, right next door to Serbia. So in that light, the fact that he fled to Serbia specifically has some interesting, tantalizing possibilities as to why. Maybe he has friends there that we don't know about yet. So just to throw that out there. I don't know if anybody else wants to talk or if we can throw it to Zach to go to the next break. Or Wendy, go for it.
I just want to say I can't wait for the Lifetime or the Hallmark documentary on this. It's going to be very interesting. And I hope they make a novella in it because everything in Spanish sounds so much more dramatic and just so much better. Zach?
Does Hallmark make documentaries? I always thought Hallmark made Christmas movies. And so when you said that, Wendy, I imagined like Do Kwon and the Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah, and like, yeah, we gotta have it.
I mean, he was on the run during Christmas. It would make a good one, actually, like a Christmas to remember.
The Christmas Fugitive.
Featuring, yeah, exactly. And he falls in love somehow along the way.
Oh, he can fall in love with the scammer from OneCoin.
Who he abandoned in South Korea.
Or a regulator. That would be the ultimate Christmas Fugitive movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think he could fall in love with Ruja from OneCoin because according to new documents that surfaced last week, she was dismembered and thrown into the ocean by her organized crime partners. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's something.
Sorry, just to throw that out there.
I wasn't expecting.
Thanks,
it
David.
Is what it is.
Well, yeah, we almost had a screenplay there, and then David came in with a material
I mean, it's a
update.
different kind of screenplay.